Girl, We Need to Talk is a place where we have open, honest, transparent conversations centered around love, life, loss, and mental health. It started as a place to hold space for my grief after my dad died in 2018. But like me, it's evolved into a space where we as women can simply woosah, take a breath, and relax. We keep it a buck around here and have nothing to hide as we open up about topics that everyday women like you and me face every single day. So settle in and get comfy, cause girl, we need to talk. The journey to motherhood looks so different for every single woman, and yet we're only taught one pathway. But what if it doesn't go the way that you expect it to go? Uh, our guest today, Trayce Williams, has experienced so much IUI, IVF, only to land on the diagnosis of stage 4 endometriosis. Now, most people don't even know what that is. I didn't know what it was, except one of my girlfriends in my 20s was diagnosed with it and had to have an emergency surgery. And yet, it's still one of the most misdiagnosed conditions out there because even the doctors miss it. So, before we get into the episode, let me just give you just a little bit of background on endometriosis. It's a condition, again, that 10 to 11% of women experience. It can cause painful periods, pain with intercourse, pain with bowel movements. It can cause infertility issues. The list goes on and on. And it's brutal, y'all. It's brutal. I'm Miss Cherry Bailey. You're watching and listening to Girl, We Need to Talk Season 3. And my guest today, Miss Trayce Williams, is here to share her story. Thank you so much for joining me, Trayce.
So first and foremost, thank you so much for just doing what you do, Charity. This platform means so much to so many. So I'm honored to be a guest right here on your couch with you.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of back into the endometriosis part of it. So
Okay.
about 4 years ago, you met the love of your life, a Morehouse man, and you a Spelman woman.
Spell
He
House Love.
you fine and he handsome. And I mean, they teach us first come love, then come marriage. There, here come Trayce with a baby carriage, but the baby carriage
Right.
hasn't come yet, right? And the fairy
Yeah.
tale that we've been sold has not been a fairy tale at all.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that quote because I don't know if you remember the Anita Baker song "Fairy Tale," where she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Look, Mama, you told me this fairy tale, but it just didn't turn out that way." And that's so crazy that that's how this whole like last 4 years of our relationship and marriage have felt. Yeah, I moved to Phoenix from Atlanta, Georgia. Biggest move of my life. Took a huge risk and just jumped and I haven't regretted anything that I've done thus far. But I really thought like, okay, I found the love of my life. I found, my life partner, and now we're at this point. Our careers are at a certain point. Our family life is stable. It makes sense. Like, let's have babies, and that was way bigger of a uh, problem statement or idea than I could have ever imagined. I saw girlfriends that were my age, younger, um, that were having babies. I mean, lots of them,
With no problem.
easy
Yeah.
in my with no problem. And I'm like, something's up. So, um, just from the onset, we knew that things may be a little bit different for us, and we were open. We were ready for that. But nothing really could have prepared us for the last 4 years of our journey to being parents.
So walk us through that journey. So you got married, you found the love of your life, you got
Yes.
married, y'all decided that you were going to start family planning. You were in your mid
Yeah.
30s,
Yeah.
and they call you a geriatric
Mid 30s.
patient.
Yeah. They do. And it's a real term. I was like, are we sure we want to use this term? But yeah, it's a geriatric after 35, the female body just starts to do very miraculous things again and in preparation for that next stage in life. And so, I just thought, okay, 35 is a good time to start. Um, but I'll say that I kind of want to start a little bit further back, Charity, because I never thought that I would have problems conceiving, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
had, as I was saying, I had to start a marriage and, just thought like, oh, I'm not on birth control. Like this is just God's birth control at this point,
Mm-hmm.
not really realizing that there was a underlining issue that I just didn't know. And so, we started to do our research. We had family friends that we reached out to and said, how did you go about with your family planning? Got some really good referrals for here in the Valley, and started down this path of, uh, less invasive family planning options. We first tried just natural, which is considered an IUI or interuteral insemination. I like to call
Hmm.
it like the turkey baster approach. I know that
Okay.
sounds crazy, but it's less invasive, and it's a less stress on the body. But we tried 5 of those, and
So
after
what
the
does that
fifth
look like
one,
though?
yeah, so it looks like um, not as many shots as like the IVF process, but you take some hormones that increase your stimulation for ovulation, with hopes that you'll have a bigger and more healthier egg at that time of insemination. And then the office helps the process by taking my husband's Darren's semen and cleaning it up, essentially finding the best sperm that's there, and they inseminate it through a in utero catheter.
Okay.
And so it's in office, you're not asleep. Again, not as invasive as some of the other treatments, but we did 5 of those. And so after each one, you wait, 2 weeks, you wait for 2 weeks to see what happens, with hopes that you are successful in a pregnancy. And we weren't, you right? And so by that fifth one, I said, something's up. Like let's put on the gas. Let's see what's up, because at this point, if we started at 35, I'm like right at 36, almost about to be 37. We took about 2 years. And what you got to understand, Charity, is that every month it's a roller coaster, right? So you got to go on birth control to like calm your system down, and then you come off of birth control to get on, estrogen and all of these other very overstimulating hormones. So
Mm.
I'm crying, I'm mad, I'm cussing, I'm fussing, I'm still working, I'm still, trying to provide for my family, for Darren and all of my community. And my brain is all over the place without success in the sense of a pregnancy. So, yeah, that's the IUI process.
So you went from the IUI process to the IVF
Yes.
process that so many of us are familiar with, in vitro
Yeah.
fertilization. Can you walk us through what your journey was like on that? Because we've seen it.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that some of the reality shows are like showing it more and the shots and that type of thing. But
hmm
what was your journey like with IVF?
Yeah, thank you for the segue too, because I'll say it again. Nothing could have prepared me for the mental, physical, like grueling, just approach to this process. IVF takes so much out of you. And so you got to make sure that starting the process, you're pouring into yourself. And
Mm.
I say that up front because I didn't know that 4 years ago when we really started down this path. I just thought, oh, I'm paying, and then they'll give me some medicine, and then I'll get pregnant. I thought it was like one, two, three, but it's
Yeah,
it's it's not. It's
it's
not
not.
linear at all. Um, it's not. And so I'm glad that I had a companion that was with me through the process, because it's very um I keep using the word invasive, and I mean that because it's in every part of your life. It's in your spiritual life, it's in your professional life, it's in your physical life. Um, there's hundreds of shots that we've taken over the last several years. There's
Wow.
hundreds of just needles and medications, and it's a what I would call a it kind of blocks people at certain levels in their life out. Like if you're not in a role or a job where you can like get off at the most obscure time of the morning, I mean, they only see you at certain parts of the day. And so you have to have a career. Like you couldn't be, it's hard to be a teacher or, someone that goes into like a warehouse or anything like that. Like it just impacts so much of your life.
You got to have some
Um,
flexibility, eh?
you have to have flexibility. And so we've at this point have done what's called retrievals. So retrievals are going into building your egg reserve up to a point where they go in and they extract the actual eggs so that they're at a point where they are genetically sound and ready to be fertilized. So we've done we've done four egg retrievals.
Oh, wow.
And each of those retrievals are very taxing on the body. Again, all these hormones. Um,
So you
Out of those
inject
four
the
retrievals,
hormones
because
during certain times of the day, and
yes,
then and that's to
inject
build
the
up
hormones.
for the egg retrieval.
Exactly. So what you're essentially doing to the body is asking the body to overproduce what you would normally produce one to maybe two eggs a month. You're asking the body to produce at least, 20 to sometimes women get up to 50. And so you're walking
Oh,
around feeling like sandbags are, swinging down there. This is real. I'm getting real
girl, we graphic on here.
graphic,
This
but
is girl. We need to talk. Girls is talking, women are talking, and this is what our bodies go through. So
it's sandbags.
everybody, buckle up and listen. That's what that is. If you felt like
It's
sandbags was
it's
hanging from your body,
sandbags.
you felt like sandbags was hanging from your body. Your body did a thing, child,
It's
and we
sandbags.
ain't
It's
sorry.
sandbags. Okay, we not. Um, but because I am geriatric, I own it. I'm a proud 39-year-old. Because I'm geriatric, there's a level of testing that some women want to do, genetic testing, PG, TA, and certain other types of testing that happen once the eggs are retrieved. So after each egg retrieval, we would then go through a testing process. And let me back up. Once they're retrieved, Darren's semen is then uh, pulled, and the best are pulled out, and they charge for everything. So every extra little, embryo glue and, all of these things that they want you to kind of like add on are added on for a fee,
Of
with
course.
hopes that it gives you the best, the best opportunity to get pregnant. And so once they're retrieved, they're fertilized. You hope that they make it to what's called the blastocyst stage. And then from there, I've always done testing on our
Okay.
eggs. And so several of the retrievals we've had because of age, because of some underlying issues that we'll get into within the endometriosis that I wasn't aware of, um, we didn't get the best quality eggs. So
Yeah.
I've to date only had two eggs that were normal. They were boys, and we miscarried them.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest part, that I knew, you know, what they were and in my mind who they were.
Hmm.
Um, so you get very like granular. You know so much about your body, and uh, with that information sometimes comes truth,
Yeah. So what
and the
was your
truth can
truth?
hurt
What was your truth in
when,
that moment? In those moments?
yeah, in those moments, my truth was that I was and I am a mother. My truth
Mm.
was uh, that I'm a spiritual believer. I believe in God, and I knew that at that point they weren't for me on this side. They were for another side,
Yeah.
and that I would see them at some other point. But um, I was so happy to know that we had made this creation. They were
Hmm.
created. They were here. Um, the other two retrievals weren't as successful. We weren't able to retrieve, and I think. Charity, that's the part that people don't talk about. Like even on the shows, you're like, oh, they got eggs, they got embryos, it's good to go. You don't realize that those embryos get tested and maybe they're okay, maybe they're normal, maybe they're not normal, and you still implant them and hope to God that the genetics work out.
Yeah.
And so it's like with the information sometimes comes this heavy like responsibility to make
Mm,
decisions
yeah.
on what's happening. Um, so yeah, I would definitely say the last four retrievals were really taxing for us.
Yeah.
And then the transfer part is the part where they implant them. And then that's when we've had the two miscarriages. We were able to get pregnant from those two normal male embryos, but unfortunately, they didn't make it past the 6 week mark.
Yeah. It's been
So
4 years and I still hear you, like the emotion in your body and like tearing up. And you're right, like it, when you see it on shows and you hear people talk about it, it's all, oh my god, we got pregnant, we had a baby, but nobody really
yeah,
talks about the ups and the downs that come with it. So if a woman and her spouse are looking
mhm,
into IVF, again, before we even get to the endometriosis part, because
right,
that's what the
exactly.
determining
That
factor
comes.
has been for you. But if someone, if they're the women who are listening to this show, if they're saying like, I'm interested in IVF, what is it that you would tell them about the journey? Because it's not all highs. We just, it's so many lows. We just hear about the highs.
Yeah. Well, get that money right, honey, because it is not funny. Um,
You told me
thank God.
55K, and I said, good
Hey,
God.
55K is in the last 2 years. I would say from IUI to all of the retrievals, all of the actual fertilizations and testing and everything, I'd say we're closer to about 80 grand, and that's through 4 years with insurance, Charity. Like
Okay.
I thank God that I've had employers and Darren's had employers that have supported us and provided the insurance. But it's still a taboo faux pas type diagnosis. You know, it's becoming more relevant. People are talking about it more, but insurance companies, at certain in certain industries still don't recognize that this is something that is a medical diagnosis that needs medical support. And so I'm grateful for insurance because
Hmm.
without it, I mean, out of pocket, I mean, it's crazy. So the financials,
Yeah.
just
So
being
it's,
aware of what that looks like.
and it's something that is a
Go ahead.
privilege if you have that type of medical insurance.
Yes.
Then that also
Yes.
breaks down into the socioeconomics parts of it, and that's a whole different
Exactly.
thing. Yeah,
Whole different
yeah.
thing. I would also say be prepared for not seeing a lot of women that look like you,
Mm.
especially in certain areas. I'm from Atlanta, and so being from Atlanta, I could look to my left and to my right and see representation in different areas and situations. Coming out west is very different, and going through a process like this and looking for community,
See, she's saying
you
it
gotta
nice.
find it.
Basically, she came from Atlanta, y'all, where black folk, affluent black folk, doctors, nurses, advocates are in the spaces. When you live in a place like Arizona and some other spaces where there are not a lot of black people or people of color, there's not the
Mhm.
advocacy. I'm just gonna say it, Tracy, because it's very true. I
Say it.
mean, whether it's
Thanks.
whether like as black women, there's so much that we deal with,
Yeah.
and when we come into certain spaces where we're not understood and we're misunderstood to the point of being strong and being this and being that, and they don't understand our
Yes.
bodies, then we're not treated the same. And that's where equity and equality goes out the door. And so people think that because you reach a certain standard and a certain
Right.
level in life that those things don't apply to you, but at the end of the day you're still a black woman. And so
Yes.
if those
Yes.
people are not in the spaces where they understand you, where they're listening to you, where they're caring for you, where they're, you know, in tune with your
Advocating
body
for
and
you.
advocating for you, or
Yes.
even are even aware of the things that your body might be going through that are different than everybody else on the planet, then we don't get the same level
Mhm.
of care, and it just is what it is. And I don't mind calling it out because I'm gonna call it out until they stop doing it
Thank you.
to us. Period.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah.
Um, that's so good. That's so good, and I'm so glad that you said it in that way. Um, and maybe I'm still a little like raw on the edge, Charity,
Mm-hmm.
because when I walk into our clinic, I love the staff. I love my team of doctors, and don't get me wrong, I'm grateful. But when I walk in, I feel like I'm holding two mantles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not only fighting for this family that I want to produce and to bring into fruition, but I'm also holding this mantle for my community
Yeah.
and like representing everybody that may not be able to have the access or the, ability to do this. And I want to fight for them. I want to ask like the right billing questions and, how can we make this better for everybody? And so there's this duality that I'm always fighting when I
Child.
walk up in that office.
Yes.
So, and that's any situation when you're, African American, Black woman
Mm-hmm.
in these situations. So I would say those are the two things. And the last thing I would say in preparation for IVF is you got to have an anchor. You have to have um, a hope, what I call a hope post,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere where you can look back when things start to get rough and you can say, hey, and I don't know if that's your spiritual walk or whatever you call your hope post, but you got to have it because there are going to be some days, some dark days, either through the actual process while you're pregnant, during your birth, or those first few years where you're like, wow, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you need that reminder that you can make it through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm saying that looking backwards, looking back,
Yeah.
because I didn't have that when I started. I really thought you got this together. You found your husband, you found your helpmate. The next thing is kids.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. And that wasn't it. And I had to recalibrate
Yeah.
that checklist. I threw that out the window a few years ago.
That
I don't
checklist will
even do
get you every
checklists no
time
more
because
at all.
we're taught that. We're taught this
Every time.
linear process in life
Hmm.
with jobs, with family planning,
Yep.
with expectations, with careers. And I really, 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 really want to drive home to women our age. I'm 41, but also
Hmm.
women, girls, and young ladies coming behind us that life is not linear. You may have more than one soulmate.
Please.
There are more than one ways to get to the career that you want, to get to the family that you want. It's not linear. Now, you mentioned your husband just now. And before we get to the
Hmm.
endometriosis uh,
Yeah.
diagnosis, how has this been for him as well? How has he done with all of it, and how has it impacted your relationship, the IUI, the IVF, and now the endometriosis diagnosis?
Right. I know you can see my smile, but I wish you could like just feel like how excited I am when I talk about Darren because there'd be no way I would have gotten through any of this if it had not been for my literal helpmate. He's picked me up off my face. I've almost broken my hand because I can rage. Like if I get angry, I show anger outward,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that about me. Um, and I've almost physically like hurt myself because I was so angry at certain points. And he's picked me up and he's wiped my tears and he's helped me to eat when I didn't want to eat and he's prayed with me and I couldn't have asked for a better support system through this process. And
Yeah.
I know I'm so blessed, Charity, because there's a lot of men that don't get it. Now there's times where he has his own way of responding to the feedback and the information that's coming from the process. But we've learned so much about each other. I used to be afraid that we were so new in our relationship that I threw this on him so soon. Like, is he gonna? Is this gonna be like a make or break point for us?
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's mature enough to know me and to know I want a baby. I want us to have a child together and he knows that he has to help me to stay strong to get to that point. And so everything that he does, he really does do with intention to make me happy, to like keep me in a headspace
Yeah.
to keep going forward, like to keep my strength built up.
Yeah.
He takes me to appointments. He administers my shots without even looking. I mean, it's some, I mean, shots like the needles are this long and this thick in my
Ooh,
buttocks, and he's
child.
doing it for me. And I thank God, because there's people that are doing this on their own,
Yeah.
and my God, they are so strong. I couldn't. If I was by myself thinking I wanted to have a child, it'd be something different. It wouldn't be this,
Yeah.
because I couldn't do it.
Well, and
So he's, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
you mentioned that you told me earlier in our conversation that he's very data driven, and y'all are
Yes.
peers. He's like a year older than you, but that when you bring him the issue, he brings you the data and then tells you we gonna take the
Yeah.
data to God. And when I
Yes.
look at the data of endometriosis affecting and impacting 10 to 11% of women, that's several million women nationwide. You didn't
Hmm.
realize you had endometriosis until you went through the IUI, the IVF, and then started testing on the other side. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I have
Hmm.
stage 4 endometriosis. That's why none of this is working 55,000 damn dollars later.
Yeah, like really? So yes. So Darren has always been very data driven. I mean, that's all he does is look at numbers all day. I couldn't. I'm very passion driven. And so he's like, all of this, and I've gotten to this point now, and I'll share this to anyone going through this. What you go through is information. Take in the information and then really start to work on how to process through what that information is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken me time to get over if it's good or if it's bad, because that's attaching that emotion to it, and that's natural to do. But it's so good to have that sounding board in Darren, or someone like that,
Mm-hmm.
that can say, hey, let's think through this. It's information. What is the plan? What can we do with this? There is space though for the emotion, and I get that. But what's really helped me over the last, several situations that we've been through with the updates and things like that, is taking in that information. So yeah, the information has led us to this diagnosis of endometriosis that we had no clue. Even I didn't even know about
Yeah.
endometriosis, Charity, until my doctor finally said, like, hey, we've had a few failed attempts at everything. Let's do a test, which it's called receptiva test, which is a pretty new test. And there's some data out there about it that, it may show, endometriosis, but I'm here to say it was positive for a marker that is positive in women with endometriosis. Um, the gold standard, though, for endometriosis diagnosis is surgery, however, right?
Yeah.
So once I got the actual biopsy, so they take a biopsy of my uterus, and they send it off. If it's positive for the marker, then you can continue moving forward. Um, the That was more information.
Yeah. Well, and just so that our listeners and viewers know, uh, the medical diagnosis for endometriosis is a disease where tissue similar
Hmm.
to the lining of the uterus grows outside the uterus, causing pain and or infertility. Now, so we talked earlier, and I told you, and at the start of the episode, I mentioned that I was in my early 20s when I found out about endometriosis, and that's because one
Hmm.
of my girlfriends growing up, first of all, they told her that she had caught an STD from the guy she was dating at the time, only to find out that while I'm at my
Yikes.
godmother's mom's funeral, she's crawling around on the floor for days because she can't move.
Hmm.
She's in debilitating pain. My cousin takes her to
Mm.
the ER. We get a call. We rush from Sacramento. And in the x-rays, mind you, this has been going on for years. They're like, oh, yeah, by the way, we got to put your daughter in emergency surgery because she has cyst
Sis,
on
I
her
knew it.
ovaries the size of grapefruit, and we
Mm.
need to take her ovaries. And gratefully, her parents were like, "Wait, stop, no, hard stop. She's in her 20s. You're not taking her ovaries."
Thank
Yeah,
God.
but the thing is, again, cysts the size of grapefruits. They were able to remove them successfully, but we were in our early 20s in college. They put her on Depo after the surgery. Her body had to heal. That took almost a
Hmm.
year. She was experiencing like basically signs of like menopause, having hot flashes and all these different things.
Menopause.
They told her
Hmm.
she would never have children. Like, praise God, like years later, we're in our 40s now, but she has two children. But her parents were like, no, you're not going to
Yes.
just tell us that this is what it is and you're taking her ovaries and that's the end. They fought for it. And so there's so many women who don't even know about endometriosis, don't know how it impacts the body, don't know that there's hope past the diagnosis. And so your big thing is
Mm-hmm.
advocacy and awareness, so that once you do get the diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps do have to go through the surgery like you had to, that you still know what to do and how to maneuver so that you still get what it is that you need out of
Yes.
the care and the procedure.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, Thank you for that hope story though. I love hope stories.
Yeah.
I love to hear when, on the other side, and it could look different for everybody, but that's beautiful. Um, I just want to say one quick point to the advocacy piece. So when I got the receptiva test, I went back to my community. I have two big sisters. One is my sister in love, Leslie, and then another is Alex Porter, Dr. Alex Porter. They're both physicians. They're both with Mayo
Mm-hmm.
Clinic. What I was able to do through them was to get a appointment through the gynecologic surgical team at Mayo Clinic, one of the best hospitals in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They have treatment there, or technology there that does deep pelvic examinations, which would give an even better information on what was going on before they just cut me open, and because that's the gold standard. I share that part of the story because it's really important in my journey, because if it had not been back again for my community, everybody doesn't get into Mayo.
Yeah.
They turn a lot of people away. Black, white, any ethnic background, I'm not saying that, but it was because of my community that I was able to get premier treatment.
Yeah.
I see often on a lot of these like blogs and things like that around endometriosis, you don't want just anybody incising your endometriosis because it can be detrimental. I mean, you could die from it.
Yeah.
Um, so I share that part because I'm so grateful for them in my life to say, "Hey, no, sis, I got you. Let me help you. Let me help you figure this
Yeah.
out." So I was able to get this additional imaging. From the imaging, that my female white doctor said, "We gotta go. Let's do this." She never questioned me. She never asked, "This doesn't make sense. Let's put you on depot," because that's a sometimes a more cost-friendly
Yeah.
option for
Yep.
for
That's what my
doctors
friend had
to
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 have.
put you on
Yeah.
the hormone to try and quiet the
Yeah.
system. Exactly. And she had to deal with all those side effects. So I was able to get on the surgery list within 4 months of diagnosis from the deep pelvic. um, I was able to get into surgery, which is really unheard of. I mean, I've heard women, it takes up to 8 years to get a valid diagnosis and some sort of remedy or symptom management. That wasn't my story. I was so grateful because I was dealing with something for since probably since high school, since middle school. I just thought bad periods, everybody had them. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I remember my aunt saying, "Get up, take the ibuprofen, and go to
Yeah.
school."
It's
And that's
not
what
that
I
easy
did.
though.
I would be killed over. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. So
So
yeah,
you had the
I want
surgery.
to give them some. Yes, I had the surgery. Let me tell you something. So I had research. I thought, oh, it's an inpatient or outpatient surgery. Because when you go in for retrievals, um, all your retrievals, you go under you go under local anesthesia. So, that was always something that was kind of spooky for me. But I have done it so many times that I'm okay with it. But I thought, okay, it's like a retrieval. I go to sleep, I wake up, I go home. Some of the worst pain. Now I haven't bore children yet, but I think I'm ready, Charity. Like
You
it
said bring
was
it down. I
excruciating.
done felt it all.
I said bring it now.
Yeah.
Bring it now. But it was a very, very it was supposed to be about a 2.5, 3 hour um surgery. It wound up being almost five and a
Oh
half
wow.
hours because the endometriosis was so extensive. once they got in there. I had over 24 local sites of stage 4 endometriosis. Um, I almost had to have what's called a bowel resectioning because what the endometriosis can do is start to grow itself in your bladder, on your pelvis, on your not pelvis, I'm sorry, on your bowel, on your
Mm-hmm.
intestine. And so they thought that they were going to have to scrape so much out that they would have to resection the bowel. I possibly could have had like the
Mm-hmm.
coloscopy bag, and they would have had to like grab all this, but God saw fit. They were able to scrape it out, but it was such a recovery process. I really had to learn to just rest.
Yeah.
Stop trying to go somewhere and do something.
Yeah.
Lay down.
Well, you probably
Um,
had to get
and
back in touch with your
so it
body
it
as
was
well. Because I know after you, yeah,
I
after you had
did.
the surgery, you'd reached out to me, and I'm just gonna share this. And you
Hmm.
asked how I got back in touch with my
Yeah.
body after having gastric sleeve surgery, and I said you just got to learn to honor her and
Yeah.
remember that that old body got you to where you at, and this new body is gonna get you to where you're going. So you had the
You
IUI,
did.
the IVF, now the stage 4 endometriosis diagnosis, now the surgery. You're healing. How have you learned to honor your body moving forward?
Well, I'm gonna say on record that text meant so much to me. I was literally sitting in pain, and I remember texting you like, I think you had reached out
Yeah.
and was like, just checking on me. And I remember thinking, you've been so vocal and like open about your journey. And it really helped me to say, it's okay if you got to lay down
Rest.
somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to move around, just
Yeah.
rest. And I really took that time. I did take a leave of absence from work. And I was really appreciative of my team for just allowing me to rest. But this whole fertility road to motherhood impacts so much of your life that, even in moments when you want to rest, you can't because you're like, I, my career, my civic duties and all of
Mm-hmm.
this. No, no, this has really forced me to understand more about who I am as a
Mm-hmm.
person, who my body is, like what it all brings to me and how miraculous it
Yeah.
is. It heals. It knows what to
Girl, the
do.
female body is
It
so
knew that
amazing and
it's
intuitive. The
beautiful.
reproductive system
It's
is
beautiful.
God. If anybody needs to know that there is
It
a God,
is.
look at the reproductive system. And that's why these men and these politicians with their stupid ass pens
Yeah.
need to stay up out of our bodies. And I said it. I don't
Stupid.
care.
Please stay up out my body.
Yeah.
Please stay up out of my
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
Please. But I will say that getting back to my body it's been
Mhm.
beautiful. Like I've seen her in so many different ways. I honor her so much more
Mhm.
differently now, and I know she's trying.
Yeah.
Even when what my mind says is
Mhm.
success, I'm like, girl, you still doing it.
Yes.
Like, girl,
Yes,
you
girl, you
okay,
doing a
you
good
healing.
job.
You
Girl, you
look at you,
doing a
you back
good
out.
job.
Yeah, girl, you do
Hey.
for real. Like she
Yeah.
doing good. She's really doing
Uh-huh.
good. And I'm proud of her.
Yes.
I
I'm
really
proud of
am.
her too. And it means so much to me that you said that you're proud of her
Thank
because
you.
that's the thing. Of course, our journeys have been different, and of course, my surgery and yours have been
Hmm.
different. But like, it's the mending of the body and the heart, mind, body, soul alignment
Yes.
where you go. I am so proud of you. Like, I'm not gonna look at this piece of flab or this scar or this. No, these are
Nope.
battle wounds, and I'm battle tested, and that in itself is
Yeah.
just so
I'm battle
it's
tested.
beautiful. So you call it fertility fighters because there are a bunch of different groups and support systems for women who
Yeah.
and couples who are trying to conceive and who are going through the ups and downs. It's impacted your money, your relationships, your body, all of that. What is your hope as we plan
Oh
up?
yeah.
What are your hopes and plans um, for family planning, expanding your family, children in the future? What does that look like for you
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Um, so there's a scripture that I always rely on and think through when as I'm getting so far down this path to
Mm-hmm.
motherhood. Um, and it's Romans, I think 4:18, and it talks about Abraham hoped until, right?
Mm.
It's basically saying that God gave him a promise,
Yes.
right?
Come on, somebody.
But even when he was met with all of these like challenges and things, he kept on hoping. And I know that the hope still is there for us. What do I know like exactly where we're going next? No, because Charity, what I've learned through this journey is I take it like one day at a
Mm-hmm.
time. I used to plan out like 3, 6 months. Mm-mm. I'll call y'all when my period start. I don't even like try and look at.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
let you know what's going on. Like I don't even like get all, oh, what do I have to do now? And I need to get prepared. Now, when I'm in the process, I'm very diligent. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like I'm a good steward of like my body and knowing what I'm intaking and things like that. But I can't wait to eat some French fries after we get off this call.
And
Like
dip them in ranch,
I'm
sis,
learning
because
to
you
like
only live
love
right
and
now.
dip them in ranch. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
So, I encourage you all to just enjoy the process because the process is a
Mm-hmm.
mug. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's purpose in process.
But try and find those it's purpose and
Yeah.
process. Um, I would say that, and then I would also say it's only come because of where we are in this
Mm-hmm.
journey, but it's like I'm getting more blind in
Yeah.
faith. Like when I started this journey, I had faith, but now it's like
Yeah.
blind because
I
I
don't know
really
where we
don't
going, but we
know,
gonna get there.
what the
Yeah.
outcome
Yeah.
is.
We
We
gonna
gonna
get
get there.
there.
Like I'm like, all right, Lord,
Yeah.
that's okay. You got that.
Ah,
So
girl, you got me
it's
tearing
more
up
of
over
like
here.
this
Yeah.
insane, yeah, it's this insane blind
Mm-hmm.
faith that I'm getting more blind as I'm
Mm-hmm.
going because I just
But
gotta
it's such a
trust.
beautiful process.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
so beautiful, Charity. It's so beautiful. Um, so yeah, I think those would be like just the hope and the faith and I say it with conviction
Mm-hmm.
now. There's been times where during this process I wanted to just lay down my cross, lay
Yeah.
down my towel and just say, "You know what? This isn't for
And
me."
why me, God,
But there's a
sometimes.
purpose to this. I don't know what it is. And why
Yeah.
why me? And I still ask
Yeah.
that, right? Like I'm not saying I'm just healed of asking that because
Yeah.
it's human. But
Whew.
there's still that hope guide, that hope post that's still there that reminds me, you got
Yeah.
this. He's got you, so you
Yeah.
got this.
So when you submitted your the video so that our producers could know what we were going to talk about, you mentioned a quote
Yeah.
from Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. And that
Hmm.
to me sums up. Oh gosh, you got me over here. I'm a crybaby
I
anyway.
know. I listen. I'm a crybaby too.
But it's
Whoo
like
wee. I'm trying to
you
breathe through
connect the
it.
dots going backwards, and that's why I started the conversation with endometriosis, because endometriosis was the end diagnosis, but that was the beginning to your healing journey.
Listen.
Yeah,
Listen. It's so much bigger than just the
yeah,
baby. I didn't get that before. It's so much bigger than just I want to produce a version
yeah.
of ourselves to go forward. I've learned so much through this
Ah,
process. And Charity, I can't promise you that that diagnosis is going to yield a human
yeah,
on this earth. I believe that it is because I know he knows my
yeah,
heart. But I can't say that. What I do know is that he's going to take care of me this whole journey through.
yeah,
If he sees fit, if that's the will, I'll embrace it and I'm just gonna keep
yeah,
on keeping. Like I I'm so blessed when I look around. My family's healthy. I'm healthy. My friends are healthy.
yeah,
And those that aren't, I know how to pray for them to be
yeah,
healthy. Like I can't ask for too
yeah.
much more. So yeah, I'm not giving up.
Yeah,
We're
and you
not.
shouldn't. And we're all here to support you. And that's the thing that I'm learning in my 40s is that life will air you out, but it's not for nothing. And that there is,
Listen.
listen, There is so much purpose in our pain, which is how Girl We Need to Talk was even birthed in the first place. Pain and grief. But
I
there's
love it.
beauty in the process. There's beauty in
Yep.
healing, and again, it's not for nothing. So even if it doesn't yield the human child that you're looking to birth, perhaps it births something
Hmm.
else that is a part of the purpose. And there's so many different journeys to motherhood that we have not been exposed to. We've only been exposed to
My
one.
God.
So whatever this yields, I'm
Exactly.
here for it, and I can't wait to see what comes of
I
it
love it.
and how you continue. So, uh, I know that you are a very
I love
big
it.
advocate and that you speak so openly and
Hmm.
transparently about your journey. You're part of a bunch of different groups. Um, Maintaining your mental health has been a big part of this as well. What are some of the things that you found to
Yes.
ground you as we wrap up here?
Yeah. Definitely get a therapist. Find someone to talk to. Girlfriends are great, but they not certified. So you need someone that can
Yes.
administer some medicine
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you need
yeah.
it. You need someone to calibrate those
Yeah.
chemicals if needed. But no, seriously, therapy, that has been the number one just sounding board that I've needed through this process, to just make sure that I'm
Mm-hmm.
calibrated as I'm going through. Um, I would also say I found power in sharing
Yeah.
my
Power and
stories. I've
testimony.
never been afraid. Power and testimony, and I've never been afraid to be like open and transparent. Like I want people to see the grief. Like I want them to see the highs, the happies, the lows, the
Mm-hmm.
shots, the blood, the hurt. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. Like you could see my butt if
Right.
you wanted to. Like if you really want to go
Right.
live, we could go
Because
live.
this
Like
is a real life
the
experience.
scars are
And we always see
okay.
snapshots and highlights and
It is.
reels on Instagram of the pretty baby, and you don't
Exactly.
see really what it took to get here. I feel
Exactly.
you.
But you don't see.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm okay with that because I know at some point it may help someone that isn't okay with being
Yeah.
as open or transparent. They may find just a glimmer of hope in me showing the hurt or the sadness that I felt or the anger or the
Yeah.
broken finger that I've had because I was so mad and I punched the wall. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that. Um, and I would lastly say your sister community makes a difference. Um, Knowing that I have sisters that can press the gas when I need it, there's others that can know when to
Mm-hmm.
back up. I had a really good girlfriend of mine, Spellman's sister, who recently, she's gonna be mad, but I'm not gonna say her name.
Yeah.
She's pregnant. And she called me. She's pregnant. She called me though, and she said, Trey, I just want to tell you, I know you've been going through this, but I couldn't send you a text. I didn't want you to find it on social media. I wanted to call and tell you. And just knowing that I have
Yeah.
friends, family that love me so much, that take all of my, issues into their own
Yeah.
heart. Golly, like I'm so loved. Like
Yeah.
that just moves
Yeah.
me, and I was so grateful
She's
for her.
celebrating, but
But
also
I'm
holding
so happy
space
for
for
her too.
you.
I ain't tell you
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. But and cares enough to not let you find
Exactly.
out.
And I have so many of those.
Yeah.
Yes, but I have so many friends and sisters that love me so much to say,
Yeah.
well, what you need? I'm coming
Yeah.
by. Get up. You all right? I'll spend the night. I'll lay in
Yeah.
your bed with you. And they in here with Darren. We all laying,
Two's company,
eating,
three's a
doing,
crowd. We crowded.
getting our
Yeah.
life together and two exactly.
Move
Like
over,
we
dear.
gonna be
Go get us
okay,
more wine.
so exactly, move over. Exactly. So they lean in when they need to lean in, and I've appreciated each of them
Yeah.
for that. So yeah, I say those are my
Good.
three
And
things.
I appreciate sisterhood too. That's why we're here. Girl, we need to talk in the space where we
Yes.
come to Wusa and to talk about the real things. Because listen, all this other stuff is just
Yeah.
noise. But if we can cut through the noise, get our hearts right, our minds
Hmm.
right. Again, in the living room is where we laugh, talk, we twerk, we drink. And you mentioned sisterhood, we also pull up. Like what we need to do.
Yes,
I'm
we
gonna pull
y'all will
up.
pull up. Y'all will
Right.
pull up. You all right? Get up,
Right.
girl.
And
Get off
at the
that
end of the
floor.
day, we're gonna be all right. So, Tracey, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us today and for sharing your story. And we're all cheering for you
Thank
and
you.
Darren, your husband. And yeah, keep us posted on the journey. And I just
We
can't
will.
wait to see what God has for you. And either way, there's victory in the testimony. So cheers to being happy, healthy, and whole.
Amen.
And hey,
Cheers.
I love you, sis.
Love you more. Love
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. See you later. On the next Girl We Need to Talk. In episode 1, you saw a long, big braid, and all the other episodes, you see variations of those braids. If you've been following me for some time, you know that I've worn just about every single hairstyle there is known to mankind. And well, I was over it. If you have followed my story, you know that the TV business executives, news directors, have tortured me about my damn hair. Like, leave my hair alone. The wigs and this or that. Now I get on with executives and they're like, oh my gosh, Charity, your hair's beautiful. We love that. So if we decide to move forward with this project, like, how do you want to wear your hair? They're not asking me what it is that I want. Thank you for listening to Girl We Need to Talk. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Want to watch the show? Be sure to subscribe to the Miss Charity Bailey YouTube channel and connect with me across all social media platforms at Miss Charity Bailey.